Well, it's not Friday, it's Sunday, but we had to do this because everybody wants to know how is the meta looking on heroic raids, baby.
Also, it's ranking in views.
Listen, it's what people ask for, okay?
For
so
sure,
we're doing
for
like
sure.
the 15th meta, now we're doing the heroic raid meta for range DPS as well, because this is more likely to be more buggable, I would say, although normal is like the most
yeah.
fun. But heroic still can paint a very, very different picture.
And it's fun because we always say, you know, you play whatever you want, and not everybody's like a cutting edge mythic raider. And we used to kind of look in heroic logs in the past when we did the tier list, but now we actually have a dedicated tier list for heroic so that you can actually see that stuff can change.
Yeah, because a lot of people do heroic. And listen, very important. Now, if you want to vote your melee DPS or whatever melee DPS for the next Friday, the next big TLF video on next Friday, that's going to be Melee and Mythic Plus. It's going to be the people's tier list, the community tier list. What you have to do is click the Google form in the description. It's really nice with TLF and all of that. And just vote each melee spec on where you think it should be in Mythic Plus, you know, S, A, B, C, or D tier. And then after we gather all the votes up, we will make the video based 100% on what you voted. Okay, so that
it's gonna be a shit show. It's gonna be super fun.
Oh yeah,
obviously,
cannot wait.
We won't have any like real input aside from like taking the things and putting them in the things.
We're just gonna talk about, oh, look at that, they voted this, oh, this is voted that. It's pretty cool. So be sure to check the link in the description after you watch this heroic meta for range DPS. Let's kick it off as always with Affliction Warlock. And what do you know? Affliction Warlock, who for some people is trash, for some people is bad. They need love from Blizzard or whatever.
Definitely has a stigma.
Listen, I know it needs some love, but in heroic raids, Affliction is...
put it there, let the people know.
Okay, Affliction in heroic raids.
For the longest time,
with
the exception of the last expansion and let's say this patch, Affliction has been the go-to Warlock spec for raiding. It has the best way of dealing damage, the best playstyle, the best damage profile for raiding usually, because it's just how the spec is designed, but it kind of fell off in the last couple of years and it has a stigma, but now it seems like it's doing really, really well, and it is consistently one of the best casters in the game.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Dathia logs, you're gonna definitely see it there, like being at the top. And I guess we can make an argument about it. It's like the fact that you just have like dots all the time. You don't require that much setup to spread those dots. You know, for
sure,
mobs and stuff and priority damage. I mean, a lot of the other DPS need to move around, stop casting or whatever. It's painful. And being a melee over there is just, oh my god. Affliction has an easier time.
Yeah, and it seems like it has like really well performance on fights where there are like ad phases. Like Diurna is also a really good example where it's the best range spec on Diurna, you know, statistically wise. And it's also the second best on Razageth, which...
oh, well, yeah. I think, like, for the biggest problem in the Razageth fight would be, I don't know, moving towards the platforms and getting all those dots directly on all the ads. I don't know if Heroic, do you have the big ads going to left and right? I think they're there.
You do, and obviously you still have the burst phase with the shield, but there are plenty of specs that do a heavy single target as well, and it's... Although I think it's fine in single target too. So I think when the bars and the stakes are not as high as like, you know, cutting edge, get the cutting edge this week without all of the gear, Affliction can pull.
All right. Moving along to the famous chicken that crossed the road and survived, the Boomkins, baby.
The battle turkey.
Well, what can I say about Boomkins? Is it the same argument here where the ramp for a lot of the fights doesn't really add up? I mean, it's still heroic. It still should matter.
It's okay. There's no real ramp. The problem with Boomkin is it's pure single target. Pure single target. Like if we have bosses like Teros, it's pretty low.
It sucks on Teros. Okay, we all know that.
And even on Razageth, it is pretty low in terms of overall performance. Like its AoE still requires a couple of globals to set up, and you do have about 10 seconds into ramp. So depending on your group, because obviously on heroic everybody's blasting, but if the ads die too quick, that's where a lot of the boomkin value will fall off. On Mythic, it's probably a different story. Adds a little bit tougher,
story, yeah.
and you can definitely pull a bit more. But as it stands, the single target, I would imagine, is one of the biggest weaknesses for boomkin.
Yeah, and like all of the logs point, this is like a little bit below the middle of the pack on heroic. So I guess a respectable B tier would be in
B
order.
for battle turkey.
Or for balance, not quite.
No.
Arcane Mage is up next.
Ooh.
And once again, another shift around. Now listen, you want to know who's the best DPS on Razaget? You want to know? Do you have a feeling? Do you have a hunch who it is?
Tell him what time it is.
It's Arcane Mage. It's like the #1. Just look at the screen.
And by
right
quite
now.
a bit, actually.
Look at it, man. It's like it's taken the lead on the Razaget fight so far. It's ridiculous. And not only that, it's like doing great in heroic once again in other fights as well. So I don't know if it's like in front of Affliction, but definitely.
I mean,
S-tier.
Affliction kind of performs better on more bosses, but Razaget maybe might be the final factor, the deciding factor as well. It's S-tier. Both of them are S-tier. Both of them are really good. There you go, Arcane Mages, because we've been talking about Fire and Frost for like 2 weeks, and there's the love.
Arcane time is here. And listen, like whenever we see a very good performer on Razaget, we tend to rank it higher because it's one of the fights that has like single target, has big AoE, has cleave, it has everything, and we believe is like the most important fight of the race, the last boss.
It is, and obviously it also gives you ahead of the curve. So
yeah, you better get it. What about Beast Mastery, Hunter Flame? Do we see some problems here?
Beast Mastery is, everybody knows that it's the king of single targets. The nerfs and buffs, more buffs coming to Beast Mastery for more.
Yeah, buffs. Give it more.
Buff it more. It needs. Obviously, on fights like Taras, you're gonna shine. You're probably gonna be the top, if not the top spec on pure single target. The boss damage that Beast Mastery brings is really good. The AoE suffers, so on fights with a little bit of AoE, like I don't know, Dathia, it's okay. It's still up there, but you know, it's.
I guess even on fights like that, it's not like the most performant, but it still has an easy time because it just casts around and goes everywhere and can still deal the damage, right? So but I think like in Razaget you can definitely have an argument there.
It's below the average. The worst hunter specs actually, it seems.
It's kind of bad over there. So but that's like an exception. It's not like terribly bad. There's other specs that go way below the curve over there. Overall, I feel Beast Mastery is a tip of the A tier here.
Definitely.
We're gonna have some more specs to see, but I believe it's like the strongest contender on that tier. Now,
for sure,
Demonology Warlock on heroic rate. Man, listen, it's not the worst. It's not the best either. You would think it's the best. The thing is, we see Affliction in so many of these logs, like doing better. I think like, is there any fight where we can see Demonology?
Demonology is kind of above average on some more important fights, like Razaget. It's above average.
It's up.
Diurna is a little bit above average, but like fights like that, it's dead. It's dead in the water. It's all the way at the bottom of the list. It's a very difficult spec to play properly. I mean, you do have to cast a lot. You do have to reposition your pets, and if there's like platforms that teleport where pets usually tend to bug out.
Oh yeah, we know that. I mean, in terms of like his performance, definitely there's a difference between what you're gonna see here and what you're gonna see on Mythic. Okay, so I guess we that's already understood, right?
Yeah.
This is why, like, because performance-wise, it's like maybe in like sort of like the middle grounds or whatever.
It's probably a bit better than balanced Druid.
Yeah, somewhere around the boomkin situation.
It's
over
okay.
there.
You'll do fine.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is all heroic. Everybody and their mom gets 1 trillion PIs, and if you're not gonna be the person who's gonna get all the PIs playing a demo, then we're sorry. You're probably gonna see that PI on Unholy Decay or something like that. So heroic raids are basically more cheese than ever. You have to take this into account as well.
Hope you like cheese.
Yeah. Omne du fromage. Okay, let's talk about one of the best performers ever in heroic raids, and that's Destruction Warlock. Jesus Christ, they suck on this, man. Well, I think like Razaget is like the worst fight for them on heroic from what I see on the logs.
Destruction isn't having a good time on Razaget as well. Well, in the overall scheme of things, right? You'll still be able to do some decent damage. Obviously, on cleave fights is really good, I would imagine. Although we don't have any council assets right now, any council logs to look at. I would imagine it's pretty good on Council as well, because it's just pure cleave, pure 4-target fight. But other than that, it's kind of different.
That for like all of the locks, like now we're gonna have on the screen the Razagate block, right? So if you look at that, it's like all the way low over there. There are a couple of other fights as well that it just throws destruction really, really low. Again, it could be a symptom that these folks are not getting all of the PIs in time or whatever.
Might be.
It's like, so even on that, it's not looking good. I guess we have to put some specs into D tier.
And
we'll have a place here because
there might be some fights where you're gonna be okay, like you're not gonna pull your raid back or anything like that. But for the most part,
you mentioned Council. I can definitely see Shane on Council. You know, more cleavy than like big.
For sure,
could definitely see them on top. But again, heroic, missing PIs. You know the drill. All right, Fire Mage up next, baby. And Fire Mage is doing better than this Warlock for sure.
For sure, no, it's definitely.
Yeah, you cannot really like mess around with its AOE. You can definitely pump up that AOE. Although that ignite can definitely wear out in some comps where it just doesn't have the time to like do all of its proper damage.
I see. It seems like it's doing above average on that. Yeah, so I would imagine that depending on how the tactics are, obviously some groups will go on the platform, some groups will not. If you're in the first group or maybe in the second, maybe that's better because you maybe time your combustion a little bit better. It's all about the combustion timing. You can probably blast the entire platform, almost all on your own.
Sure.
If you do have, you know, the gear and maybe you get a PI on top of it, the amount of burst that you can get with Fire Mage is out of this world. It does drop off. So outside combustion does drop off. So there's like pluses and minuses. Where you need the burst is good, but for long-term consistent damage output, you're probably gonna suffer.
Yeah, it's the same argument we always make about Fire Mages, regardless of the tier list we do with. They still need some love in terms of like their overall damage profile. Something needs to happen over there. But it's not the worst in heroic. I guess we can still have it on a respectable B tier. Probably a little bit better than Boomkin.
Yeah, probably.
Not as good as Demo, but the differences are very, very incremental. Okay.
Yeah.
Fire Mage. That was
we can cool it a little bit.
Let's go with the Frost Mage. Frost Mage, who is like overall doing pretty good in heroic, way better than I would have expected.
Way better. It is seemingly, by looking at some of the single target boss fights, is the best mage to do single target damage. Which I mean, to be fair, I kind of expected Arcane to kind of have that cake, but I mean, it's good that.
Leave Arcane do this giga.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, it seems like all mage specs kind of have a niche, which is probably what you want if you're a mage player. Maybe you're happy about that because you can, you know, have some options. You can choose different types of specs depending on what boss fight you want and what kind of responsibilities you have. Are you the platform group? Are you the ads group? Are you the boss group? Anything like that can help. So it's good to have that versatility when it comes to the class. So even though, let's say you have Fire and B, still have Arcane and S, and Frost is not doing too bad.
Frost is really good. I mean, if you look at the Diurna logs, you can definitely see like Frost over there really shines. So not like the big group pumped up AoE, but like 4 to 5 targets really shines. Not to mention very good single target as well. I guess we can place this bad boy into an 8 tier.
Yeah, it's really good.
Overall, the logs kind of put it over there, and it's great to see it, to be honest. Very different story from the Mythic TLF, definitely.
For sure.
Okay. But what about Marksmanship Hunter, baby? I would say another very great performer overall. It does have some really good fights where it shines. It has a couple of fights where it's like below the pack, but you can definitely see shine better on Diurna, for example. It's really good over there. Not so good on Terros. I mean, it's below the middle.
There's the single target situation where Beastmaster kind of takes the kick, especially with the bow, but obviously the bow is going to get nerfed.
And they're going to get some more buffs.
So the buffs are probably going to affect marksmanship really well, and you know, being able to do more single target. That's really good. Not to mention that marksmanship is similar to mage. It's one of those specs that can do responsibilities, that can do text. Like, okay, I want you to do that. Yeah. The Diurna fights are actually really good examples because you can just burst ads really quick. You can do the same for Razagate. So even though the single target will pull you back in terms of like overall damage.
But on the platforms, you can definitely
binding shot the ads, all of that stuff. That's going to be something where marksmanship shines.
Well, this is the thing, right? It's a little bit like overall, you can definitely see it above the mediocrity here. So we have to put it like behind, I would say.
I would say put it behind Frost Mage. I think Frost Mage overall seems to be a little bit better.
Okay, all right. So it's still 8 tier in the heroic rate. Now let's have a talk about the
lizard.
Devastation.
Salamander.
Man, Devastation. I was expecting this to be much better in Heroic. I don't know.
You think so? Actually, it's probably better on Mythic than it is on
Yeah,
Heroic,
yeah.
to be fair. Devastation
You
is...
know about it.
Yeah, it's still one of those casters that lack a lot of single target, which sucks. The problem with Devastation on Heroic...
AoE, though.
Yeah, the AoE is really good. It's really front-loaded. It's similar to probably what Fire Mage would bring. However, it is lacking a little bit because the AoE is on a 2-minute cooldown. I think I could be mistaken, but the Combust is on a way shorter cooldown.
Yeah,
it's
it's
around
way,
a minute.
yeah,
Pretty much
of course.
everybody plays Kindling now.
Yeah.
So a Fire Mage kind of does what Devastation does a little bit better. Probably where Devastation starts to shine is in Mythic. It does have a really good utility kit, which is going to pull it ahead above other classes with stuff like Rescue, with Zephyr, with a lot of movement and gliding abilities. That's gonna really help a lot more on Mythic than on Heroic. Because on Heroic, where Devastation shines, there's a lot of other specs that kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Demo, Marksmanship definitely does the burst way better than Devastation, and it's way faster. It's like on a 45-second cooldown. It's like outside of 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah.
If you look at the overall logs, you can definitely see like the logs for Devastation are like kind of consistently below average. You can maybe in some fights you would see a little bit above the middle, but the performance is like way overshadowed by a lot of the other specs on the spectrum here. So not the worst, but
I
we're
would
gonna
put it below.
in.
B is respectable, and I think
Yeah.
Devastation is just a shy.
We don't respect it right now. In Heroic, okay, that's the general premise here. All right. Oh boy, Elemental Shaman, man. Elemental
Listen,
Shaman.
can we love you guys. We love you, Elemental
We
Shamans.
love Elemental Shaman.
It's
But look at these logs. Though, just this is one log. This is another log. Here is another log. Just look at Elemental Shaman. It's like
overall
what
performance.
The fuck?
Obviously, you cannot really just judge everything by the logs, sure, but it's no secret that Elemental's output and throughput overall is just lower than everybody else's at the moment. I don't know if it's the lowest. At least Destruction really scales stupidly in AoE, which is something that you probably won't see too much in raids. Probably will see in Mythic Plus. But Elemental's weakness also is another single target spec that does that single target issue spec where its AoE is good. You'll probably see it do really well on AoE fights like Council, but Council is one of the first fights, which is why mostly we've elected to not really take it into consideration, because it's an easy boss where you really do get to it really quick. It's usually the second boss for most people, so it's not like, you know, a pivotal point in your raid progression or your raid performance. And where single target really matters is where we will see Elemental kind of fall short of a lot of other specs.
Yeah, and even if you see some better logs on a specific fights, it's not like it's doing amazing. It's just better than, you know, the end of the tail. Okay, so
buffs are coming though. Buffs are coming.
Yeah, with this regard, we're gonna have to place it in D tier for Heroic raids. Once again, it's just how the data is kind of like pointed us to do. So we're sorry, Elementals.
It's not our
we
fault.
hope you get more love. You're gonna
the
get
numbers.
some love, but there's more love.
Tough love first, yeah.
Need love more than ever. Shadow Priest, the last one on the list.
Shadow Priest is kind of like the Elemental argument,
shut up, man.
but it's better. Its single target
Alright.
is probably slightly better, although I'm not too sold on that. Shadow Priest single target is pretty poop. Anyway, its AoE is definitely better,
AoE,
but
AoE.
Shadow Priest does break some that Elemental does not.
Well, I know. Okay, I know. So listen, you're gonna be the PI machine over there. You're gonna help out everybody. You know, you're gonna have the Holy Priest and Discipline Priest and Shadow Priest. PI fest for a lot of these specs. This is the truth, guys. In Heroic, you're gonna see, like, if you're gonna look at the buff trackers and stuff, you're gonna see some goddamn PIs on all those top DPS.
10, 20, 15.
It's how it is, okay? But overall, in terms of like the performance, because okay, you're gonna have PI on yourself, that's no problemo. But even though the logs show a better picture than Elemental Shaman, so
Yeah.
there's like definitely the AoE component over there. Sure, you can talk about some ramp over there, Heroic adds dying faster, blah blah blah. Even with that being said, it's still doing a lot better than most of these specs. Not the greatest, but I think
It's in a respectable B tier.
Let's put it in B tier,
It's
yeah.
B tier is basically what you could probably play and you'll do really good. Basically, if you don't have like really good pumpers that are just like padding the hell out of all of the parses, and if you play a B tier, you're likely gonna be top damage if you know what you're doing. It's really hard not to. The specs are really good. C and D is usually what we look at as like, okay, they kind of don't really fit the fight style. Maybe they need a little bit of buffs. Maybe they're just more utility based. So that's kind of our argument for putting stuff wherever they are.
Yeah, but this is the final image for the meta in heroics, okay? It's based on logs, but also with a lot of disclaimers, you know, PI fest over there. It's definitely going to influence a lot of these specs, a lot of these range DPS. Some of them actually like quite argumentatively have better days in specific fights than others, right? Like you're gonna have Arcane do giga damage on Resident,
For sure.
but then again, Destruction Warlock and Elemental Shaman,
Listen,
not that much.
what you need to understand is that this video is your excuse to tell your raid leader that you can play Affliction in raid.
Hell yeah, buddy. And also don't forget to check the Google form in the description so you can rank the melee DPS for Mythic Plus for next Friday's tier list video. It's going to be 100% based on what you ranked for all the 13 melee DPS. And we always rank S tier our Patreons because they keep on supporting this content. We love you guys. Thank you
very much for making the content possible and making everything that we do so much more enjoyable. You guys are the lifeline of the channel, and if you, the viewer, want to support us a little bit more, you want to see more of this stuff, you want to see some of the dungeon guides as well, and every content that we do on the channel, consider checking the Patreon link down below and hop it on, see what you like. Maybe there's a tier that you might enjoy being a part of.
You're gonna get access to bloopers, Patreon monthly chats, and a Patreon exclusive podcast. Not to mention that if you select a specific tier, custom wallpapers, it's all there. Thank you for watching the video.
Appreciate it.
See you next time. Bye. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.